And the project we're working on is called Zonneblum Renamed District 6. And it is a social experiment in virtual reality. So what we're trying to do is to rebuild an area in central Cape Town where over 60,000 families were forcibly removed under apartheid decree. And we're trying to basically use archive to recreate this building, and then I think Amy will speak more on this, and then work with some of the residents who were forcibly removed to kind of repopulate that scene.
So we are visual artists based in Cape Town. Harun Gansali has been working with this community for many, many years. And we are doing this kind of methodology in this workshop process in a number of ways. But the main thing is that our partnership is with the District 6 Museum and also with former residents. And our idea is to work together with the archive of the museum, but also to kind of have this rich workshop process with the former residents, including some performances from the next generation, so from the second and third generations. And we are building this experience using Unity, but we're also working with a number of different technologies, including photogrammetry scanning. We actually have a little trailer that we're just busy working on now, which we can show you very quickly.
I mean, this is real-time 3D. Here's the third person of our team, and it's not quite a digital twin, although we sometimes hope we had digital twins. Here we go. What does it say? I can see it.
So we're looking at the symbolic terrain of District 6 that no longer exists, only in the memories of the residents and in the archive. So we're thinking about this as a kind of an active construction and a performance of memory. So not to one-to-one reconstruct, but to kind of repossess the history of the area in this virtual space. And this particular map is on the floor of the District 6 Museum. And we're working with this map where it becomes kind of transformed from just a 2D map into a repository of experiences and stories. So we think of the world as District 6, the material world of land and space is District 6 as a radically unstable space. And we are really questioning this idea of how can placemaking work in the virtual world.
And I mean, lastly, I know we're like a minute before the end of time here. I think we're also trying to use the kind of imaginatory space that these technologies provide, because of course it's really hard to, almost impossible to reconstitute the community of District 6 and rebuild it as it was. But somehow with these devices and with the use of archive and with the use of narrative storytelling and performance, we're able to kind of reconstitute the community, at least in an experiential form that could, that is possible, right? That is realizable, that is tangible.
We're also working at a very critical moment in making this project because the question of repossession of the land and former residents being rehomed in the former site of District 6 is a very, very current and topical and crucial question at the moment in Cape Town. So it's a very critical moment to be making this project about this community. Thank you.
Boom, 4 minutes.
Really appreciate that.
Hey everyone, I'm super happy to share with you Tangible Utopias, which is one of my highest sold projects so far. My name is Ioana Niskie. I'm a Romanian born transmedia artist, and I grew up in a village in Romania. And ever since I was a kid, I really wanted to imagine how would a better world look like around me? How would society unfold all around me? Hey, come here. As I started to research, I noticed most of the visions are highly dark, highly dystopic. Come here. I started to create a project initially called Government of Children, which was initially made a film interviewing children, and then based on their ideas, we developed a web documentary and a VR franchise. And right now, I'm going to share the process behind, which is quite simple in a way. We are interviewing children from around the world. We try to archive their visions in a written, filmed, and drawing manner. And then we discuss with a lot of transdisciplinary artists, with architects and 3D artists, and we try to sketch out their ideas and to actually make them more feasible in a way. So we end up having 3D models of these futuristic cities that we like to call tangible utopias. So basically, to give you just one example is the Tube City, which started from a problem suggested by one of the participating girls who was saying, in our current cities, we have a lot of traffic. So in order to avoid the traffic, what if we would create this amazing residential area where people could travel through water slides and tubes filled with waters? Or a gondola city, which is a place that somehow protects nature while allowing people to survive very nicely. Or the Sponge City, which is a place that aims a place that aims to transform water. Okay, sorry, I have a little baby with me. He's very anxious.
Okay. Don't worry.
Okay, or the Sponge City, which is basically a proposal towards creating a place that transforms rainwater into potable water. So basically, all of these scenarios were proposed by children, and our goal was to find out how can we invite more people to co-create them? How can we invite people to personalize them even further and to decide how much technology or how much nature to have in these future cities? So this is what we have explored so far. We have already 5 cities in the VR experience after interviewing 100 kids. And in the future, we want to reach out to more diverse children, to children with various backgrounds, genders, and social conditions, and to actually diversify these futures even further. My goal is to achieve a transgenerational, transdisciplinary, and in some ways, trans-perspectivist universe. This is our team so far. We are a bunch of associations and companies and little startups, and it feels like we are a team of like a huge army, but in fact, we don't have like huge financing on board. And our goal is to create it as a holistic franchise that is not just a VR piece, but it's more of an educational journey, a social journey, and a research journey as well. My belief is that VR is more than just a technology. It's potentially a tool to prototype better societies. So to end up, I would just launch a few questions that are almost daily on our minds, which are how to combine divergent visions of the future, how to create a holistic future out of divergent proposals. How can we use VR as a societal prototype so that we can actually test different futures before implementing them, and how to co-create more organically, not only between us as humans, but with other technologies, other species at once. So this is what I wanted to share. I'm not sure if it came across very clearly, but I would be delighted to continue it together and to see how we can transform it into a better journey.
So my name is Jumoke Sawan. I'm here with Vincenzo, and we're part of a team of 4, including Dylan Valley as well as Sonke, and we're known as the African Space Makers. So individually, we've, oh, sorry about this. I think my presentation moved pretty fast. Okay. So individually, we've actually created XR experiences as storytellers, and some of those experiences have addressed some of the challenges of Land Use Act in our various communities. Now we live between Nairobi, Lagos, as well as Cape Town. For Dylan, who lives in Cape Town, he sort of addressed, this issue about occupation, and also looking at gentrification and how that is affecting the society, how that is affecting people in the society. For me in Lagos, I've also explored Lagos at large, which looks at gentrification, stratification, and urbanization, and how people are being gentrified out of the society because of rapid urbanization. Vincenzo as well has also looked at the idea of empty spaces and looking at how to fill up spaces. So we actually adopted, our name from Vincenzo, which is African Space Makers, and looking at how to fill up spaces, and that includes both our physical spaces and social spaces with stories. So basically, what we're trying to create is an offline, platform that actually looks at, storytelling as a means to transform social problems. One of the ways that we're trying to do this is by the use of interactive games. So the idea is that we would gather stories, from communities and transform those stories into interactive elements to resolve some of the challenges in those communities. Case in point, I would like to use my experience in Lagos. Madam Maggie is a condiment seller in the city of Lagos, and she had gone missing. And the idea was that the entire community came together to try to figure out what happened to Madam Maggie. In the process of this, we had invited them. Prior to this, Madam Maggie was having challenges, in our community, dealing with the task force agencies. Now, the idea is that, in the market space, the market is spilling over onto the highway and distorting, movement in the city. Thereby, there's a tension between the market women and the task force. So how do we find Madam Maggie? So we decided to come together, to bring the communities together to play a game. And the mystery is basically to look at a way to sort of resolve, looking at, trying to ask the women, stories to actually lead up, to us. So we look at, elements within the community. We look at, for example, the manhole. We look at all these other elements and try to put them together, in a way that, we can actually find Madam Maggie. We eventually found Madam Maggie. And she was at the hospital. And what actually happened was the fact that she fell into a manhole while she was running away from the task force agency. So what we have tried to do is that in a way to actually bring people together to address some of the social challenges, we need to sort of adopt role-playing as a methodology. By gathering the people together, we need to utilize role-playing as a methodology to actually extract stories from them. How do we intend to do this? We gather the storytellers together in a sit down, and we sort of extract, some of the stories from them. And from these stories, I, the storyteller, put the stories together in a way that, it would become more meaningful to the community. And then I take it back, to the community stakeholders in a way to sort of build an effective society for the future. I'm going to allow Vincenzo to take over and speak further, about our project.
I'll just give you like an example and a practical idea of implementation. So imagine a role play. This African mama has disappeared and the whole community now is looking for her. Okay, this is the story that we wanted to come out with. Now it becomes like a game, a role play game that we are playing in a VR environment. And while trying to find this woman, we learn about all the problems of this community. So what do we need? We need to implement a platform that allows us to co-create basically games and spaces with the communities. So we have already a platform. So now we need to customize it in order to allow the video, the storytellers like Jumoke to be able to use this platform to get where they want to get. So it's a full package that allows you to come in, write the script with the community. Then after you have written the script with the community, you shoot some video with the community. And finally, you put it together. And that's where Unity comes in and making it interactive and fun. Now the community can experience the market story and the mystery of the mama head that has disappeared. And in the process of doing that, the people can learn actually about the problems of the market. Thank you very much.
Hi from Worthing in Sussex. I'm here with my very dear friend Sarah, who's in London. Just quickly take you through the context of which this project is based. So I'm working in Worthing on a site of nature restoration called Sisbury Fields. It is a chalk grassland site which has huge ecological significance. I've literally just come back from a workshop in the field this morning where we were working with different stakeholders, residents, elected members, dog walkers to establish the management goals for this field. We're taking a participatory approach to this, and I've been using this experience with MIT to explore how AI and VR can help us in these management goals. So our participating process could benefit from mechanisms and methods to show that change on the site has always happened. We've gone back to deep time, 65 million years ago, and done some timeline work to bring us up to now, to help us situate people on the land, especially for those who can't physically make it to the fields, and also to enable better dialogue to articulate possible futurescapes. There are many different scenarios we're articulating for how the site could develop, both in terms of people's use and different species and the management of that. And we think that technology could help us bring that to life and make it more real for people, to get them involved in how that might work too. So Sarah, do you want to talk about the next slides?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, my microphone cable just popped out right at the wrong time. Okay, so yeah, it's really great to be working with Lucy on this project. I've just come in at a later stage, but I've got a bit of experience in sort of getting people to think about shared land use management and all the different things that Lucy's talking about as well. And one of the things in this sector is that there's not a lot of money, there's not a lot of experience in using these kind of tools. So what Lucy and I have been really interested in is producing a bunch of prototypes that don't jump straight into virtual reality platforms like Unity just yet, and try and think of kind of really low cost stitched together tools that can help people kind of imaginate different futures. Imaginate, that's a new word for you today. Imaginate different futures. So one of the things we've been doing is kind of playing a bit with AI actually, and some of the new DALL-E tools that have become out in the market. So looking at generated images, trying to animate some of those assets in a really basic way using sort of isometric AI generated images, and then using actually free tools to animate them really quickly. And then just playing around a bit with kind of 360 panels with smartphones, and 360 cameras as well. Our kind of next stage is then to look at, once we have a kind of bunch of really formed, I guess, solutions, is to move into something more, I know that Unity is free, but more costly in terms of the resource in order to produce those kind of models. So just to give you a super quick look at what this kind of looks like, we've been using sort of the real images taken as is now, and putting in different prompts around what the kind of current situation is, which is a lot of dog poo and a lot of dogs and a lot of mangled fields. If you go to the next one as well, we've been using existing images as well for producing sort of future panel views of what it might look like. And Lucy will show you a few of what these might look like in the future. And I think the final thing to say is that we're trying to use really basic tools as well, so that when I say accessible, it should be available on anyone's phone, not necessarily using a headset. So we're looking at things like Google Cardboard to try and make it really accessible for people. Back to you, Lucy.
So I'm not going to take us through all the images that Sarah's created, but just to show how we're starting to use the use cases to define how things might look and how we might kind of bring people along on this. So we've created, just some simple imaginary frames in which we could bring some of these use cases to life. So this is about showing people how the site may have looked 100, 150 years ago when it was farmed. Our next use case about situating people on the land, bringing people in who can't be there. This might be academics that might be working remotely. So this is an actual image that I took on the field pretty randomly during the winter. And the technology enables us to imagine what it could look like if we intervened with particular management aspects that separated dogs from cow management, which enabled grassland to come back. And then finally, this kind of idea of enabling better dialogue, which based on the workshop that I ran today, is still very much needed and very much focused on. So Sarah, do you want to take us through this panorama?
Yeah, definitely. So this is a kind of, if you want to play it, like a kind of future imagined panorama. I'd love to take this, like something like this actually into Unity, but it uses existing photographs and an AI to sort of build up some of the the cows and the imagined landscapes that we want to see in the future as well. And really, I think for me, like, it's just helping people, I think it's a word for today, imaginate what the future might look like when you're having these discussions. So showing this sort of mix of wildflowers and cows, and just to kind of show you a bit of behind the scenes working as well. You can sort of see those different pictures.
Yeah, so me and my two colleagues are developing a project called World Building for a Hydro-Feminist Metaverse. This is our team. I'm a VR experience designer and visual anthropologist, and I met Sylvia during our master program in creative technologies. And the project we are working on is our maybe master thesis, so it's still in progress. She's an amazing 3D artist and creative technologist, and we also have an urban studies scholar on board, Emily, who's also a lecturer and architectural historian. So we were thinking a lot about water as connecting element between human bodies and urban spaces. And while developing the project, or rather researching, we realized that we only have limited amount of water that circulates on Earth. So you can imagine that you take a sip of water, it will flow through you and onwards out into the world. And understanding that everything is interconnected gives rise to a new kind of ethical obligation. Suddenly, something very distant and remote feels up close and intimate. Actually, you always share the water you drink with someone on the other side of the world. Water is transnational, transspecies, and transcorporeal. Our bodies contain 98% of water, and our planet is also 98% of water. And this is what connects us all. Nowadays, water is in danger, which means we and our inhabitant is in danger, and we need to do something about it also in our digital spaces. And we wonder how. So when we think about Metaverse, we are inspired by flow of water. And planning like a Metaverse city is almost like planning a real city. Maybe you know that recently Seoul has announced its presence in Metaverse, so it's happening. Physical spaces are moving online. And while thinking of hydro-feminist Metaverse, we would like it to be based on feminist tech. It means that Metaverse cities shouldn't replicate existing structures of power we know from our physical cities. And we also would like it to be decentral, because right now only a couple of big tech companies are in charge of metaverses, and we would like that in ideal worlds, everyone has a say there. So to design this digital space, we would like to use methods used in urban planning. One of them is intersectional placemaking. And it's just paying attention to social identities that define our metaverse. And we want our process to be collective. And the other one used also in planning the cities and spaces is blue urbanism. And this is a holistic design method that responds to the importance of water for human well-being. And we are researching right now. We are in our theoretical part. And what we are doing is we are developing a collective methodological and ethical design toolkit to put hydro-feminist ethics of care into practice. And yeah, what is important for us is that it's also across geographies. And the questions we are working on are what tools guarantee safe spaces, how to represent bodies and their needs, what are the ethics of care in Metaverse, and how to overcome unequal access to digital participation. So it means like connecting also global South equally. Those are big questions and more is coming. Thank you.
All right, awesome. So hello, everybody. My name is Jordan Barber, and I want better. You know, it's 2022. We have all this technology, infrastructure, information. Right now, my kids at 4 and 6, they're learning things I didn't know until college. You know, we have so much, and I feel like we can do better with it. I want us to do better with it. And when I think about what makes life better for us, I think about education, you know, healthcare, housing, energy, food, just basic needs being met with dignity, creativity, fun, connection. And you put all of this together and you get community, because we can't do it alone. We have to do it together. And that's what the Green Print is all about. In fact, our motto is play together, change the world. In order to play together, we need a game. So our big vision is to create a game where people can design, experience, and test sustainable communities where a higher quality of life is accessible to all. And our game is called the Greenprint VR. You can think of this game as a city simulator, my favorite being City Skylines. But the difference is when you play in our game, everything is connected to the real world. So you're building on real world land, you're building with real world technology, you're managing real world resources based on real world data. And you aren't building alone, you're building in collaboration with players worldwide, harnessing all the knowledge and all the perspectives to create a pragmatic model for a sustainable community. And our game then becomes a blueprint, a plan we can follow to build this virtual community in reality. So our big vision is for this game to become a tool in the cycle of playing, planning, and building these new sustainable communities infused with dignity and innovation, and a process that can happen on any prospective piece of land. So that's our like really, really big vision. Where we are with it right now is we've created a nice home for ourselves that you can visit anytime at createthegreenprint.com. And I'm gonna kind of scroll through so you can learn even more about us when you visit. When you go to createthegreenprint.com, you can learn that we are a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to engaging communities to create a world where a higher quality of life is accessible to all. And we do this using our game, which you can play a prototype of right now.
Yeah.
So when you start to build, you can build like if I was living in our own house, right? So I need food, I need some water, I need energy. And when I put all of that down, I start to see that my stats up here, let's see, stats up here are red and I need more energy. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of that on top of my home. And there you go. You can start to play around with the balance. Here I'd be living by myself, so I want to add another person. And you can really play with the sustainability, play with the balance. That balance is backed by real world research, which you can explore in our podcast or the manual, which I'll quickly scroll through. It includes like instructions on how to play the prototype. It includes more information on the blocks. My favorite, the food block, which is connected to aquaponics. It represents aquaponics. All the give and takes are represented by real world research, including our talk with Dr. Lance Beecher from Clemson University, which you can see in our podcast. I also want to point out that the land that we're building on is connected to the real world. And this is where my personal story comes in, because the land is Weehaw Plantation, which is located in Georgetown, South Carolina, which is my hometown and where the passion for this project began. My grandmother was a teacher and she knew a lot of history about Georgetown. In fact, Georgetown was once one of the richest cities in America. That wealth was gained from selling rice, which of course was produced by slave labor. So this understanding that the wealth of America being gained by the exploitation of people really runs deep inside of me. And so I'm committed to changing that and making the world a better place that values dignity, sustainability, and innovation, and where everyone has access to the wealth we all help to create. And I believe the only way better is together. So, hey, let's play together and change the world. Thank you guys so much. I just want to give a thank you to my team. This would not be possible without them. My co-founder, Colleen McGregor, my chief technology officer, Vivian El Kamadi, and the entire board, the Greenprint board. They're so awesome. You can learn more about them on the website. And real quick, we like to end on a reflect and connect at the Greenprint. So I want to give you guys a question of reflection. Hopefully we can connect on it in the future. And that question is, what does a better world mean to you?